bit of a West Ham news roundup for you this evening. Let's start with some good news, or at least I hope you take it as good news. There's been certainly a lot of things to be concerned about in the last little while. So we'll start off with the news which has been broken by ex-West Ham United employee that the lesser spotted Michail Antonio has actually been spotted at the West Ham training ground at Rush Green. This is really good. Apparently he has been training, which is probably the sort of reason you go to the training ground. It'd be a bit odd if he turned up there to do his shopping, really, wouldn't it? He's been training and he could well be available for Arsenal. I think this is really good news. Not everybody's favourite player. He certainly hasn't been anywhere near beast mode for a long time, and I'm not just talking about the injury here. But you have to concede that he is an important part of David Moyes' team, the way David Moyes plays and David Moyes' plans. And I sort of would hope it was David Moyes would have been privy to this information, and that was probably one of the reasons why he's taken a risk, and it is a big risk, not to go and strengthen the players in this January transfer window. I think Michail Antonio coming back's a big part of that. Look, it wasn't great. I'm going to probably say my last word on the transfer window now. The fact remains is we went in for 3 players. We couldn't get an Arsenal reserve, basically an unknown youngster from Denmark, and somebody that wasn't even in the squad in the Saudi Arabian League. So that's pretty poor stuff that we can get any of those 3 deals over the line. It's a shame that there wasn't somebody, I don't know, a little bit more, let's say a little bit more high profile, a little bit further down the line. It was either those 3 choices or nothing. Anyway, irrespective of that, David Moyes has chose to go with what he's got, and he's turned around and he said as much in his recent interview. And I think it's really good news for us that Michail Antonio's back. Because, hey, look, we want to finish as high up the table as possible, right? And I do think, even if he plays, as I mentioned earlier, on 10 games this season, that's got to be a good thing. And I think that will certainly help us. Even just his impact off the bench, which is pretty much all I want to see. I think he can do damage off the bench. David Moyes was at pains to point out that he had to let Pablo Fornals go, that he had to let Saïd Benrahma go. He indicated that anything other than that would have been keeping them against their wishes. I just think, wow, why'd you let it get to that? Why let it get to the stage where players are absolutely demanding a move that this, I don't, either include them, make them feel involved, or get rid of them before it gets to this point, so you don't have this sort of emergency surprise situation where you have to hurriedly deal with players that want to leave. Anyway, just my thoughts on that. Talking about another player that maybe, well, actually doesn't want to leave, but there's going to be a lot of speculation. That's Ben Johnson. We spoke about him in yesterday's video. Of course, we know his contract's running out in July. He did a really good interview with the official website. I was really pleased to hear what Johnson had to say, and it was that he's willing to play anywhere that the manager wants. I think for a long time, certainly myself, I've been concerned that maybe that's a frustrating thing for him, that he couldn't nail down a position. But you see Johnson when he plays with a smile on his face. I think it's really good to see people like that are really important in the dressing room. So just be able to work in and around happy people it's good, right? Everyone likes to be around happy people. And I think for him, I believe him when he says, I'll play anywhere, I'll do what I want. He alluded to the fact that when he was in his younger days, when he was in the youth team, he used to play midfield. So he said, it's okay, I've done that before. I'm going to take a little bit of getting accustomed to, but I'm happy to do it. And maybe, just maybe, that was one of the reasons that David Moyes, let's be kind to Moyes on this one. Maybe let Benrahma and Fornals go. Let's be fair. They weren't getting any assists. They weren't getting any goals. And maybe just thought, well, that's one way that I can offer Ben Johnson a little bit more game time. All the boy, he's not a boy, he's a grown man. All the guy wants is a sort of comparable wage with the rest of the squad and a chance at first team football. I don't think it's too much to ask, particularly given he's been there since he was 8. Interesting news, sort of interesting news. Jesse Lingard. Jesse Lingard, that saga's over. It's finished. Lingard has signed for a club in Seoul in Korea, in South Korea. Don't be naughty. Yeah, 2 years, 2-year deal. He's passed the medical, which is, I guess, no surprise there. We all saw his Instagram pictures of him running round. So, and well, it's never been his problem, a lack of fitness or injuries or anything like that. It's always been something else.
I can't quite dismiss from my mind that I think it was an opportunity missed. Not for West Ham. Look, since he left, we went on. We carried on qualifying for Europe. We won a trophy. But I do think it was a missed opportunity for Lingard. I do wonder if he watched us winning that trophy whilst he was... Well, he wasn't clubless at the time, but he'd been dropped from a struggling Nottingham Forest team. Let's just put it that way. I do wonder if he looked on at West Ham and thought, oh, you know what, I could have been part of that. Look, David Moyes... There was a point where David Moyes would have done anything for Jesse Lingard, put it this way. And I just think for him, it was an opportunity lost. But I am quite pleased that we didn't hear it so much in the January transfer window. I'm quite pleased, but I don't think we'll ever hear that again. He's 31 now. By the time he's finished in South Korea, he'll be 33. You know, just forget it. So, there you go. Saga over, story over for Jesse Lingard and West Ham. And I think probably story over for Jesse Lingard and top flight football in terms of in any of the major leagues, including the Premier League. Obviously, Thilo, a little bit of a loan watch here. Who's been out on loan at the moment? Well, funny enough, it's Thilo Kehrer is out on loan. Thilo Kehrer played 90 minutes for Monaco. I think they got a 1-1 draw. You could just expect to see lots more of that. You can expect to see lots more of that guy playing 90 minutes for Monaco. I don't expect to see him back, but I do think it's important that he gets game time, that he plays well, because I do think that's another £10 million coming back into our coffers in the summer transfer window to boost the kitty. And you'd hope we have a big kitty. I made this point earlier on. Sorry, I'm just laughing. I don't know why. I'm laughing at big kitty. A certain footballer popped into my head. I shouldn't laugh at all. Myself and Gio were discussing this morning. We did a little Brucey bonus video over on Patreon, and we were discussing a few things about it. And we were sort of speculating that I think we were £25 million in credit following our summer transfer business. Declan Rice, Skamaka, Vlasic, Masuaku leaving, and what we spent out. I think there was still £25 million there. And I think if you're going to add 10 million for Kehrer, whatever, 6 million for Pablo Fornals, and then possibly, whatever we're going to get for Saïd Benrahma, I think that's £50 million on top of whatever we would have had to spend anyway. So, look, I guess we've got to think positively like that. It's either that or me whinge about the transfer window for the next 4 or 5 months. So he played 90 minutes. That's a good thing. Freddie Potts also played 90 minutes for Wycombe Wanderers. No game time for Gideon Kadua, unfortunately. So I'm sure he will start to get game time. As I said, I saw him. We went to play there in the EFL Trophy, and he was pretty arguably West Ham's best player against them. So I'm pretty sure he'll start to get game time. The other player that did get some game time, of course, was Callum Marshall. He came off the bench for West Bromwich Albion as they won 1-0 against Birmingham City, I believe. I haven't seen the goal, but I've read the transcript and I understand it. He assisted the assister. I think he played the pass, a guy on the wing, crossed it over, and they scored and won 1-0. So, I'm just really hoping to see a lot more from Callum Marshall. Hopefully we find out a little bit more. Hopefully he continues to sort of play well and perform well, and hopefully, force himself into that starting lineup. There you go. Not the biggest, juiciest load of news you've ever heard, but it's a West Ham news roundup, and that's as good as it gets for today.